And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, Ken in Missouri, thank you so much for holding. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hi, Bobby. How you doing?
Fine, sir. What can I do for you?
Great show. I want to know the proper way to break in brakes. You, on a podcast I was listening to back probably in February or March, somebody called in about brakes, and you started to say the normal way that was once done at one time was to accelerate 20, 30 miles an hour and gently apply the brakes. And then you said that that wasn't the proper way any longer, and you had talked to somebody, and then you started giving one of your grasshopper answers where you went from one thing to another back about what this fella had done and this and that, and the fact that he invented something, but he really didn't invent steel that was in it, but the same way as Ford. I think you got back to Adam and Eve, but you never said the proper way, the proper new way to break in brakes.
Okay. Well, point well taken, Ken. The procedure that we used for all of my automotive career up until 10 years ago or 5 years ago was to bed the brakes. It's called bedding the brakes. And that's where you go out and you'll run 15 to 20 miles per hour and you'll stop slowly. And you'll do this maybe 15 times. And what that does, it brings the temperature of the brake pads up to operating temperature or even beyond normal operating temperature slowly. So that helps to cook out some of the glues and some of the composites that's used in the manufacture of the brake pad. That's history. That is no longer the case. And I would ask you this question. When you buy a new car and you drive it off the showroom floor, do you even think about the brakes?
Nobody does.
Well, that's right. And the brakes have just been installed, and if you have a new car that has 0.6 miles, whatever it takes to go from the assembly line to the parking lot to the trailer, the haul trailer, and to the dealership, that's it. And the technician may drive the car around the block, but the brakes are never bedded on a new car. So therefore, why do you need to bed the brakes on a used car when it has new rotors and new pads? And the answer is you do not. If you install and if you machine the brake pads, rotors, using the proper methodology, and you use new pads, and one of the things that a lot of my industry, one of the parts of that service don't do is to use new slides and clips and anti-rattle hardware, brake hardware, and so that's one of the points that we could all take a lesson from. But there is no break-in procedure on brakes today. They're either right or they're not. And if the rotors are true and machined correctly and you put the new pads on, then the only reason that you road test a car before you give it to the customer is because you want to make sure there's no air in the system. You want to make sure that you as the technician didn't make a mistake, and you want to make sure there's no squeals or no noises. Other than that, you literally, it's like if you put a new set of tires on the car, you balance the tire, you torque the bolts, and you put them down. Other than alignment, there's no follow-on. You check the tire pressure once a month. Any questions?
So you don't have to do anything. Why did you do it then and you don't do it now? What's changed?
Oh, technology, parts, components, composites, glues. Years ago, you could buy the cheap brake pad, or you could buy the good one. And the main difference was the cheap brake pad was glued onto the pad itself was glued onto the backing plate, onto the slide. And the good brakes worked glued as well, but they had rivets in them. So you could look at a brake pad and it had holes. You could see where it's riveted. So now they have unbelievably successful methods to that cooks and heats and generates that pad and machines that pad. And so let me just shift gears. You're talking about here we go on a rabbit, but here's something you need to know. What is the break-in procedure of a new engine today as compared to a new engine in a car 10, 15 years ago?
None that I know of.
None that you know of. Why? Because the technology, the metallurgy. And when an engine is made by Ford, Ford EcoBoost, and they make this engine on the assembly line, they put it in the vehicle, And they don't put every engine on a dyno and crank the engine before they put it in the car. That's a given that it's going to run and run correctly. They put it in the engine. They put all the bolts and nuts in place. That's got all the lubricants in place, and they fire the engine on the assembly line and drive it off. And what do? You drive it off the truck, or the truck does, and then the trailer. I mean, the person who drives the car hauler. Yeah, that's what I'm talking. So the point is, what has changed? Technology. And so to that end, when you buy something that's new, you expect it to work, and by and large, it does work. There are fewer complaints with new cars today than ever before. Now, you're hearing more about recalls, because parts fail or don't do their job once those cars get put in place, and that's always going to happen because it's parts. It's hard parts, and hard parts fail. Anyway, any questions?
No, but I agree with you. The new cars are amazing compared to what they were.
Oh my gosh, they don't make cars the way they used to. They make them a hell of a lot better.
You are absolutely correct.
Okay. Hey, thank you for calling, Ken, and thanks for your tuning.
Great show. Yes,
Appreciate
sir,
it. Thank you very much.